Hi, Colby here again. This video is going to cover the four main thought patterns that you have and I have that make our life miserable, and then four alternatives that we can implement today to lower our distress and help us be more successful and happy. So the first one is that when things come up and happen in life, if we immediately think, I can't handle this, then that leads to all kinds of distress, avoidance, and makes us miserable. I can't handle this. I can't handle what my kid did. I can't handle what my boss did. I can't handle what I did. The second one is we would call catastrophizing. We blow things out of proportion. It's awful, it's terrible, horrible, whatever just happened. It's horrible I got cut off in traffic. It's terrible that this is late. It's the worst that my kid again did this. We call it catastrophizing. The third thing is rigid thinking. We have to, must, and should. Have to go to the store. I have to do that. You must do this. I should do this. I should have known better. You should have known better. When we think like that, it raises our anxiety, leads to lots of victim stance, lots of unhelpful thoughts have to do with rigid thinking about have tos, musts, and shoulds. Have tos, musts, and shoulds, oftentimes when we were growing up, and we do this with our kids and families and other people, is we use that to motivate. I have to go to the store today. You have to get your shoes on. That anxiety then motivates people to take action. The last one that we have is making us unnecessarily miserable is unrealistic expectations and judgments of ourselves, other people, and the world. We think that life should be easy without work. We think that we deserve certain things. We think we're going to learn lessons and be perfect. We think that no one else should ever make us upset, that our spouse is going to be perfect, our kids should be good enough. And we get really disappointed when our expectations for those kinds of things aren't met. We may know that life's not fair, but we still expect a lot of things to go our way. So those are the big four thought patterns that when we have those with everything that goes on in life, make us absolutely miserable. Now, to understand this, we all have those pretty regularly. That's not uncommon. Some of those are totally true. Some things you can't do. Some of these things that happen in life are pretty awful and horrible. And some of the things we really are compelled that are really important to do. And sometimes our expectations of life, while they may be high, are realistic and we get disappointed from those. So these four thought patterns make us miserable, not because we have them, it's because we have them all of the time and too often with things. Another word about these four thought patterns is they rarely travel alone. So when you find one, you're more likely to look around and you're going to find where they like to travel together. Okay? So what are alternatives to these? So four thought pattern alternatives to these are not the exact opposite, where we end up lying to ourselves. What we're looking for is more realistic, more helpful thoughts that we can implement that are going to be more helpful for us. And so the first one is, instead of I can't handle it, is I can, but not in the sense that it's going to be perfect. I can give it a try. I can give it a shot. It may not be pretty, but B's and C's get degrees. It may not be the best, but I'm going to figure this out and it'll get done. So some level of baseline competence or confidence that we can handle what the world and life throws at us at some level, even if it's not perfect or great. The second one, for the alternative then to this is awful, terrible, horrible, we look at having some level of perspective. Is this something that's really going to bother us 7 minutes, 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 years, etc. from now? Is this really that big of a deal? In the grand scheme of our life, is this really that upsetting? What my kid just did, is it really that bad? What if I'm late for this, is it that big of a deal? So when we look at that, the opposite is not, oh, it's totally fine and easy and doesn't bother me. What we want to do is we kind of have a rating for this. That instead of it feeling like, oh my gosh, this is awful, terrible, horrible, the worst thing ever, it's a 90 out of 100. Instead of that emotional piece of this, we look at this and be like, you know, that's not my favorite, that's annoying, that's frustrating, that's maybe a 20 out of 100. We try to bring those in line with our perspective of, say, like, maybe I'm overreacting to this a little bit. That maybe it feels like this, but it's not that bad, that things are going to be okay. Again, not the exact opposite. We're like, I love this, this is easy or the best. What we're saying is some acknowledgement that we don't like it, it's not our favorite, those kinds of things. And that helps tone down some of our distress. The third one, instead of the have tos, musts, and shoulds, is I will and I choose. The have tos, musts, and shoulds create a lot of anxiety, distress sense, a lot of rigid thinking. It starts to trigger some of our anxieties and even to the level of fight and flight and not having choice, that I must do these things or something terrible and awful is going to happen. Instead of that, we look at this from a perspective of choice. Instead of I have to go to the store tonight, I choose to go to the store tonight. I will go to school tomorrow. I will go to do this today. I'll make a chance and take a shot at this. When we go into things having a sense of choice, we might even make the same decisions, but with a sense of choice and confidence, what that does for us is it lowers our distress. It also is actually more likely to make us successful and do it. When we make a list of things that we have to do, we are more likely actually to accomplish that list when we choose to do it. I choose to go to the store today. I choose to do this. I choose to go to work. And in doing so, we lower our distress and make ourselves more successful to actually do those things. Then, when we don't accomplish these things, we also have a sense of control. I chose not to go to the store tonight because I would rather do this. I'll go tomorrow. I can live another day without peanut butter. We make those adult choices and with that perspective, and that we have a sense of control. It allows us to have more guilt-free play, allows us to then have a sense of control over our lives with less anxiety. Also allows us to accomplish things and take some risks more in line with our values. I choose to do this because I care about this person, not because I have to or am compelled to. And that makes us not only more successful, also can make us happier that we're pursuing our values instead of being compelled and driven by rigid thoughts to things. Then the fourth one, when it has to do with unrealistic expectations, this can sometimes be hard because we think our expectations are realistic, is we look at things and we realize, and we go with the phrase, Pobody is Nerfect. That's right, Pobody's Nerfect. I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. I cannot expect that my spouse, that friends, that coworkers are going to do it perfectly every time. I cannot expect that my kids are going to be perfectly behaved and be perfectly successful all the time. And realizing that life is not only not fair, sometimes it's not fair to my advantage, and to appreciate that. So having more realistic expectations of ourselves and other people, having a sense of humor about things, having a sense of humor that we don't always think the best things, that we make silly mistakes, that our expectations are unrealistic, having a sense of humor about what other people do, laughing things off, being okay with it, lots of acceptance, lots of forgiveness and grace. The phrase from author Brennan Manning is that God expects you to sin more than you do. And having that sense that even sometimes our own standards that bring a lot of guilt and shame are higher than other ideals might be placed on us. And so have some acceptance and enjoyment of that. And so those are the four. So if you have those four thoughts, I can't handle, this is awful, I have to, must, and should, and unrealistic expectations guarantee to make us miserable. We have those all the time in response to everything in life. But if we can have some sort of baseline competence, some sort of rating and a perspective of how bad this really is, if we can have some choice in the matter of what we do, that I will and I choose and do things within our values and purpose, and that I can have some realistic expectation for myself, the world, life, and other people, I'm going to be happier and more productive. So if this video has been helpful, please drop a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for your time today.